we are jumping into Group E, our preview and betting. But before I do, I've been going through 4 groups now. It's time to open drink number 2, a delicious IPA from Costco. Group E preview and betting guide. Again, let's look at how these teams got here, see what we can expect these teams to do on the pitch, how far they can go, see if there's any betting advice. Let's look at some of these squads. But first, let's look what the numbers tell us. It is expected that Belgium wins this group pretty easily, honestly. And then it's kind of close between Ukraine and Romania, and Slovakia kind of coming in third. Outside of Belgium, none of these other 3 teams are expected to get past the round of 16, and even, most likely a bit of a challenge for them. So let's jump into the favorite of this group, Belgium, who I think is a fascinating team to discuss. They were first in their group, averaging 2.75 goals per game, giving up less or right at half a goal a game. Romelu Lukaku, who has had such a fascinating last couple of years of his career, he ended up breaking the record for qualifying goals, scoring 14. So as much as I love some of the young coming players for this Belgium squad, Lukaku ain't going nowhere just yet. He is still scoring goals. In fact, in their last friendly, he just scored some more. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Belgium have kind of notoriously underwhelmed with this golden generation, specifically in the Euros, where in 2020 they lost in the quarterfinals to Italy. In 2016, they lost in the quarterfinals to Wales. And that was, again, the quarterfinals were just you get out of the group during the quarterfinals. In 2012, they didn't even qualify. The 2022 World Cup, they were famously grouped by getting beat by Morocco, losing that group to Morocco and Croatia. In 2018, that was their one good year where they made it to the semifinals and they ended up winning in the third place match against England. And then all the way back in 2014 was the quarterfinals. Belgium notoriously kind of underperformed. Again, if you think about where that number was, the quarterfinals is minus 110. So that's kind of where they're expected to make it to. And I think that'll be interesting. And we're going to get to that in just a little bit. I want to talk about their head coach, though, a former Red Bull Leipzig coach. Tedesco is only 38 years old. Jan Vertonghen, one of their defender/defensive midfielders, is 37 years old. They're practically the same age. It's so crazy. But what can he do with this squad? Is he able to get something from a very, very talented roster that's just kind of underwhelmed a little bit? I'm a little bit nervous about the goalkeeping for Belgium, and their defense leaves a little bit to be desired. Again, Vertonghen's still there. He's super old. But you look at these other names, there's no one that you're looking at and thinking, yes, that's a lockdown defender that we can count on. So Belgium in the defense is a bit of a question mark. But what they lack in quality there, they could field so many incredible units of offensive and midfield players. You got Kevin De Bruyne, who still is one of the absolute best midfielders, creative midfielders in the game. You partner him with a guy like Onana from Everton, who's a great defensive midfielder. Yuri Tillemans had a great year for Aston Villa. Axel Witsel has been there, done that for Atletico Madrid and Belgium. Probably will be a huge kind of focal point helping that defense out. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys play defense a little bit. I mentioned Romelu Lukaku earlier, having a great year for Roma and Belgium alike. Some of the other really exciting players on this team, though, Johan Bakayoko for PSV. He can be frustrating at times. I love PSV. Again, I'm Dutch. That's my Dutch squad. And he can be frustrating at times because he loves just the dribble shoot, the cut and shoot. And sometimes it works, a lot of times it doesn't. But he is creative. He's fun. He's willing to take on a challenge. And I think it's exactly what this Belgium team can use off the bench. Jeremy Doku for Manchester City was a revelation this year. He pretty much stole Jack Grealish's job by the end of the season. He had a great campaign. Super, super exciting future for him. Luis Penda for Red Bull Leipzig. Again, talked about Leipzig. a bunch because they just produce so many great players. They're just so much fun to watch. And Luis Openda is a huge reason why leading that attack. I kind of hope he gets an opportunity to shine. Again, you can't bench Lukaku right now in the form that he's in, what he's done for Belgium, but he could be super fun. And then finally, I must talk about Leandro Trossard for Arsenal. He, again, I mean, similar to Doku, he just stole Martinelli's job. Martinelli wasn't even playing bad, and Trossard just kept scoring goal after goal, important games, and he produces. He just scored again for Belgium over the weekend in a friendly. I think he will have a part to say as well. I really like this Belgium squad. I think the worst case scenario would be like not winning the group, getting second, and then getting a bad matchup in the round of 16. But honestly, I think the likely outcome for them is making it to the quarterfinals and losing to France if France wins their group and Belgium wins their group. That's kind of where it would end up. But honestly, the best case scenario for this team and something that I could see happening is Belgium winning the whole thing. They are not odds-on favorite. In fact, if you put a $10 bet will win you $160, I'll probably bet that. Like I could see them doing it. Again, the defense is scary, but they could score 3 goals a game, similar to what they did in qualifying, and just get there that way. The final group. Oh, that was the first. I just talked about them so long, I thought I was already done. We're going to talk about Slovakia next, and I'll go through this one quickly because honestly, can you name more than 3 players for Slovakia? I couldn't. They were second in their group behind Portugal. They didn't have a very tough group. Other than Portugal, it's teams like Bosnia, Luxembourg, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. Like, not super tough. They only averaged 1.7 goals. They gave up 0.8. Did I mention that they drew against Luxembourg? It's not great. They did beat Poland in the last Euros, but they were grouped. Honestly, this Slovakia team is filled with people who I don't know much about, other than David Hunko, who plays for Feyenoord, and Milan Skriniar for PSG. 2 really, really solid defenders who I think are actually very good. Skriniar is probably a name you've heard of, and Hunko for Feyenoord is one that you will. He is kind of an up-and-coming star. You look at Lobotka for Napoli in the midfield, and Duda for Verona. They're going to kind of be kind of steering the midfield play and trying to get top scorer Harselin from Sparta Prague the goals. Again, I don't have a whole lot of analysis about Slovakia. I have not watched them play all that much. But looking at the names, you can see that there is a certain kind of lack of overall top quality. And you add in the fact that, their competition, yes, they didn't lose very many games. They only lost 2 games. But there just remains so much to be desired from a talent perspective. Perhaps they can punch above their weight. But honestly, best case scenario for them, I think, is round of 16. I think the worst case scenario, they could get 0 points in this group, which would suck, but I could see that happening. So yeah, I don't think there's a very bright future for them, but the intensity and the excitement is always there. So we'll see what happens. Not a whole lot of expectation for me, but this Romania squad is very interesting. They won Group I, going 6-4, undefeated. They scored the fewest goals of any group winner, only averaging 1.64. But they only gave up half a goal per game, so that's very, very good. Again, you look a little deeper. Who was in this group? Well, Switzerland, but we talked about Switzerland. Not a great team. Other than that, Andorra, Belarus, Kosovo, Israel, all teams that you don't really think about when you think about top European soccer. So Romania, a young, fun team, but do they actually have what it takes to move forward? Unbeaten. This is a team whose, the sum is greater than the parts. They work together as a team, and they really produce great football. They're in great form. They play well together. My question is, have they really been tested? Well, let's look at this squad and see some of these guys. Moldovan, he's had limited time for Atletico Madrid because of Jan Oblak, who we talked about earlier, but a very solid goalkeeper. He's their number 2 guy, but doesn't have all that much time between the sticks in actual game time. Dragosan is someone who we all heard about in the transfer window when he got signed by Tottenham. He didn't get a ton of playing time, but the time he played, he did perform well. It'll be interesting to see him with a more prominent role here. I'm excited about some of these players on offense. Puskas has been scoring a lot of goals. He's now netted 11 times for his country. Haji, the son of Haji, has been playing really well. In his 5 games for Romania, he has scored 5 times. He's been playing really, really well since leaving Rangers and being on playing for Alaves in La Liga. So excited to watch him play. This team really does play well together. Stanku, who now plays in Demak, who's not a great league, not a great team anymore, but an actual good football player. I think his experience, veteranship, could help Romania in this tournament. If we look kind of at what to expect, I think the worst case scenario for Romania would be being grouped, not getting out. I think they'd be satisfied with getting out and making it to the round of 16. I think they'd be pretty happy with that. It'd probably be a pretty tough matchup going against a group winner. I think the best case scenario for Romania, if they get hot, they get on a roll, quarterfinals. I think we could see that happen. Ukraine is a team that I'm extremely excited for. In fact, I'm going to take a quick sip to celebrate Ukraine. This is their 4th consecutive European Championship campaign. They keep making it here. They made it the hard way. They qualified via the playoff. But before you throw too much shade on that, they were in a group with both Italy and England. So they had to play Italy twice, England twice. And in those games, they lost 2 and they drew 2. So that kind of shows me that they're able to play with the big teams, but maybe not quite as good as the big teams. Good tier 2 European soccer nation. They qualified by beating Iceland and Bosnia in the playoff. One of the things that amazes me with this Ukraine team, though, is that they had to play every game away from home because of the war that's going on. So you've got this team that is fighting. That's the wrong word to use, probably. You got this team that is out there giving it all they have for their country, and everyone is rallying behind them, and myself included. I think Ukraine could become kind of like the darling of the tournament, a dark horse that could maybe make a bit of a run because they could get some support given everything that they've gone through. Yeah, insane to have to play every game away from home and still qualify against teams like England, teams like Italy. Even North Macedonia can be tough. So let's look at this Ukraine team a little bit deeper. In goal, you'll have Andrei Lunin, who up until this year I didn't know much about, but having to step in for Real Madrid and play goalie and did it at a fantastic level. Again, Champion League winning level for Lunin. So he's definitely got experience in tournament play, and I think that's going to go a long way for them. Looking at their defense, Michaelenko for Everton is very good. And then you see all these players for Shakhtar Donetsk and Dynamo Kiev. You'll see even more on the next page here. Those are the 2 best teams in Ukraine, and this team is filled with them. So again, they have that unity, not only because they're all playing for their country and their country's going through so much, but they also play together so much and play against each other. Very familiar, and the tactics really show. One of the things that's really exciting about Ukraine is watching Zinchenko play in a more attacking role. For Arsenal, he plays that left back position, but in Ukraine, they move him up, and he has a lot more freedom. So it'll be very fun to see what he can do. Of course, we all know about Mudryk signing with Chelsea for all that money and then kind of being a disappointment. Well, he's actually, if you watched him, not those shots that sail off into the stands, but if you watch some of his play for Ukraine, it's so direct. It's really, really fun. I think he's going to score some goals. Speaking of goals, I really hope Dobiek gets to start. He was tied for the leading goal scorer for La Liga at Girona. They got him this summer. Girona was such a fun story, coming out of nowhere, qualifying for the Champions League. And a lot of it's because of his ability to score goals. So I think he's going to have that opportunity in these Euros, and I think he will take advantage of it. But of course, it's not the easiest group. So what do we think they can do? How will they play against teams like Belgium? Or if they end up playing the Netherlands in the round of 16 and then a gauntlet of games after that? I think best case scenario, I think they could go on a bit of a run. I think they could push for a quarterfinal or maybe even a semifinal if that momentum on that belief really begins to stir. Because in these tournaments, especially like the Euros, which are so concentrated and everyone can travel to Germany so quickly, I think they could be really exciting. I think round of 16, quarterfinal, something like that should be the realistic expectation for this squad. I think worst case scenario would be if they got grouped. Let's look real quick at some of the betting odds for Group E games. You can see that Ukraine is a slight favorite over Romania. Belgium, a heavy favorite against Slovakia in match day 1. In match day 2, Ukraine has a similar number to beat Slovakia. I actually kind of like that one more, but again, far out. Got to be careful with those bets because you never know what's going to happen with injuries or red cards or whatever. Suspensions. Belgium, Romania, Belgium, again, a pretty heavy favorite. My bets for this group, I'm going to take Belgium to win and over 1.5 goals versus Slovakia at minus 145. I just think Belgium is a lot better. I'm also going to take Belgium to make the quarterfinal. I told you I think this team could go on a run. They have a pretty nice path. If they win this group, they would play a third place team in the round of 16. So you got to think the odds there would be pretty good, and then they would make it to the quarterfinal if they won that game. Should they be the runner-ups, should something crazy happen, and Belgium is the runner-up in this group, they would play the runner-up in Group E, which would likely be the Netherlands or France or Austria. So regardless, I think they have a pretty nice route to the quarterfinals, which is why I'm also going to take them to score over 8.5 goals in the tournament. This is one of my favorite plays because even if they don't advance super far, I could see them scoring a lot of goals in the group phase, which will give us this number at 8.5 goals. My projected finish, again, I'll go through all of this later on in this show, or if you're just watching the short Group E version, you'll have to find another video, which they're all out there. Please do find them at Ready Bet Action on YouTube or your favorite podcast. But I have Belgium winning all 3 of their games, getting 9 points. Ukraine and Romania both ending with 4 points. Ukraine advancing or getting second place based on goal differential, and Slovakia getting 0 points in this group. Again, please do like and subscribe, do all the good things.